The space around Earth looked normal that Tuesday morning. The sun was bright, and the planets moved in their usual paths. But far beyond where human eyes could see, something was coming. Something big and dangerous. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair at Luna Station, drinking his morning coffee. He had been watching the stars for 15 years, but today felt different. The sensors were picking up strange readings from the edge of the solar system. Something was out there, moving fast toward Earth. "Sir, you need to see this," said Lieutenant Amy Foster. She was young but smart, and her voice sounded worried. She pointed at the big screen that showed space around them. "The long-range sensors are going crazy. Something huge just appeared near Pluto." Jake put down his coffee and walked to the screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. Thousands of dark shapes were moving through space, heading straight for Earth. They were ships, but not like any ships humans had ever built. These were bigger than cities, black as night, and there were so many of them they blocked out the stars. "Get me Commander Pete Johnson on the comm," Jake said. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. "And wake up everyone on the station. This is not a drill." The comm crackled to life. "Pete here. What's going on, Jake?" "We have visitors." "Pete, big ones, and they don't look friendly." Meanwhile, on the lead alien ship, Admiral Vexthal stood on his command deck. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and red eyes that glowed in the dark. His people, the Zephyrians, had been conquering worlds for 1,000 years. Earth was just another planet to add to their empire. "How long until we reach the third planet?" he asked his second-in-command. 6 hours, Admiral. "Our scouts report the planet has some space stations and small ships, but nothing that can stop us." Vexthal smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Good. This will be over quickly. I want to be back home by next week." The Zephyrians had done this many times before. They would arrive at a planet, demand surrender, and if the people refused, they would destroy everything. Their ships had weapons that could turn whole cities to ash. Their soldiers were strong, and their technology was far better than anything most planets had. Back on Luna Station, Jake watched the enemy fleet get closer. The ships were huge, each one the size of a small moon. There were command ships, battle cruisers, and smaller fighters. The whole fleet stretched across space like a dark cloud. "Sir," Amy said, "they're sending us a message." "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The screen flickered and showed Admiral Vexthal. His red eyes stared at them through the camera. When he spoke, his voice was deep and cold. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Vexthal of the Zephyrian Empire. Your planet is now under our control. You have 1 hour to surrender completely. Give up your weapons, your ships, and your leaders. If you do this, some of you will be allowed to live as our slaves. If you refuse, we will destroy everything on your planet." The message ended, and the screen went dark. The command center was quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. The aliens were here to take over Earth, and they had the power to do it. Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people, brave people, but they looked scared. And they had every right to be scared. The alien fleet was huge and powerful. Earth's defenses looked tiny compared to what was coming. "Sir," said Lieutenant Ben Carter, "what do we do?" Jake thought for a moment. He had been in the Earth Defense Force for most of his life. He had trained for this day, but he never thought it would really happen. Now it was here, and he had to make decisions that would affect everyone on Earth. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command," he said, "and send a message to all our ships and stations. Tell them we have company." On Earth, people were starting to learn about the alien ships. The news was spreading fast. Some people were scared and tried to run. Others stood and looked up at the sky, wondering if they would see their families again, Dr. Carol Martinez was in her lab deep under the mountains of Colorado. She had been working on secret projects for the government for 20 years, projects that most people didn't know about, projects that were about to become very important. Her phone rang. "Carol, this is General Kevin Torres. We need you to get to the command center right now." "What's wrong, Kevin?" "We're being invaded. The aliens are here, just like we always said they would be. It's time to show them what we've been building." Carol smiled. She had been waiting for this day for a long time. "I'll be right there." As the alien fleet moved closer to Earth, people all over the planet watched the sky. They didn't know that. Their leaders had been preparing for this moment for decades. They didn't know about the secret bases, the hidden weapons, and the technology that had been built in the shadows. The Zephyrians thought they were attacking a weak planet full of primitive people. They thought this would be easy, like all the other worlds they had conquered. They had studied Earth from far away and saw only small ships and simple weapons, but they had not looked deep enough. They had not seen what was hidden under the ground, in the depths of the oceans, and in the dark spaces between the planets. They had not learned the most important thing about humans. They were very good at hiding their true strength until it was time to use it. The hour was almost up. Soon, the Zephyrians would learn that Earth was not like other worlds. Soon, they would discover that humanity was not as helpless as they appeared. And soon, they would understand that they had made a terrible mistake coming to this small blue planet. The invasion was about to begin, but it would not go the way the aliens expected. The hour was up. Admiral Vexthal stood on his command deck, watching the small blue planet through the big windows of his ship. The humans had not answered his message. They had not surrendered. This meant war. "Begin the attack," he ordered. "Send the first wave. Show these humans what happens when they refuse the Zephyrian Empire." 50 of his biggest ships moved forward. These were battle cruisers, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a city. Their dark metal hulls gleamed in the light of the human sun as they flew toward Earth's orbital defenses. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Davis watched the enemy ships approach from his command post on Orbital Station Alpha. He had been waiting for this moment his whole life. The station was one of 12 defense platforms that circled Earth, each one looking small and weak compared to the alien ships. "Here they come," said Lieutenant Tony Clark, his weapons officer. 50 ships, all moving in attack formation. "They're charging their weapons." Sam nodded. He looked calm, but his heart was beating fast. Everything depended on what happened in the next few minutes. Remember, stick to the plan. Let them think we're just like every other planet they've attacked. The Zephyrian ships opened fire first. Bright red beams of plasma energy shot out from their weapons, racing across space toward the human stations. The beams were hot enough to melt steel and strong enough to punch through the hulls of most ships. But when the plasma beams hit the shields around the human stations, something strange happened. The shields glowed blue and absorbed the energy. The beams that should have destroyed the stations just disappeared into the defensive barriers. "What?" Admiral Vexthal stared at his screens. "Those shields should not be able to stop our plasma cannons. What kind of technology do these humans have?" His science officer, a thin alien with 4 arms, checked his instruments. "Admiral, their shields are not just blocking our weapons. They're doing something else. The energy patterns are changing. On Earth, deep underground in a secret military base, Dr. Lisa Parker watched her life's work in action. She had spent 20 years developing the reactive defense matrix. It was based on alien technology that humans had found on crashed ships, but she had made it much better. "The shields are learning," she said to General Kevin Torres. "Every time the aliens fire at us, the shields study the energy patterns and figure out how to defend against them. But that's not the best part." "What's the best part?" The general asked. Lisa smiled. Watch. Back in space, the human shields began to change. The blue glow got brighter and brighter. Then, without warning, the shields fired back. But these weren't just reflected beams. The energy that came back was twice as strong as what the aliens had fired. The red plasma beams turned into blazing white streams of pure energy. They shot back at the Zephyrian ships like lightning bolts. The first alien ship to get hit exploded in a ball of fire. Then another, and another. Impossible. Admiral Vexthal shouted. Our own weapons are being used against us. How are they doing this? Lieutenant Colonel Sam Davis smiled as he watched enemy ships explode on his screen. Now, they're starting to understand, he said. Tony, send a message to all Earth defense stations. Tell them Phase 1 is complete. Time to show them what we can really do. The remaining Zephyrian ships in the first wave tried to retreat, but it was too late. The human stations had locked onto them with targeting systems that the aliens had never seen before. More white energy beams shot out, hitting the fleeing ships and turning them into clouds of burning metal dot in 15 minutes. All 50 ships of the first wave were destroyed. Not one human station was damaged. Admiral Vexthal was furious. He had never lost a battle, never had his ships destroyed so easily. Send the second wave, he ordered. 100 ships this time. And use the kinetic weapons, not the plasma. Cannons. His second-in-command looked worried. Admiral, maybe we should study their defenses first. Find out how they're doing this. No. Vexthal's red eyes blazed with anger. I will not be defeated by these primitive humans. Send the second wave now. The second wave of alien ships moved forward. These ships were different. Instead of energy weapons, they carried kinetic bombardment systems. These were weapons that fired huge metal slugs at incredible speed. The slugs were so fast and heavy that they could punch through a planet's crust and crack the surface. Captain Ryan Bell commanded the Earth defense ship New Frontier. His ship was hidden behind Earth's moon, waiting for the right moment to join the fight. He had been watching the battle through his sensors, and he knew the aliens were about to try something different. Sir, said his sensor officer, Lieutenant Maria Santos, the aliens are charging different weapons this time. Not energy weapons. These look like mass drivers. Ryan nodded. They're going to try kinetic bombardment. They think solid metal slugs will get through our shields where energy beams failed. Will they? Maria asked. Ryan grinned. Let's find out. The alien ships fired their kinetic weapons. Massive metal slugs, each one the size of a building, shot toward Earth at tremendous speed. They moved so fast, they glowed red-hot from friction. With space dust, these weapons had destroyed the surfaces of 17 different planets. But as the slugs approached Earth, something amazing happened. They began to slow down. Then they stopped completely. Then they turned around and flew back toward the ships that had fired them. Dr. Carol Martinez watched from her laboratory as her gravity manipulation technology worked perfectly. She had learned how to create small black holes, bend space and time, and control the pull of gravity itself. The kinetic slugs were caught in gravity fields and sent back to their targets with even more speed than before. The alien ships had no defense against their own weapons coming back at them. The metal slugs smashed into the Zephyrian hulls like giant hammers. Ships broke apart, exploded, or were simply crushed by the impact of their own ammunition. Admiral Vexthal watched in horror as his second wave was destroyed even faster than the first. The humans were not just defending themselves. They were using the Empire's own weapons against them, making those weapons even more deadly. How is this possible? He whispered. These humans fight like they know our technology better than we do. He was right, but he didn't know why. The truth was something that would have terrified him even more than losing the battle. The humans did know Zephyrian technology better than the Zephyrians did. They had been studying it for a very long time. The second wave was gone. 200 of the Empire's finest ships had been destroyed in less than an hour. And the humans had not lost a single vessel. The invasion was not going as planned. Admiral Vexthal was shaking with rage. In 1 hour, he had lost 200 ships to a planet that was supposed to be weak and helpless. His red eyes burned as he stared at the tactical display showing the wreckage of his fleet floating in space. "Admiral," his science officer said nervously, "perhaps we should contact the High Command. Ask for more ships." "No." Vexthal slammed his fist on the command table. "I will not tell the Empire that I was defeated by primitives. We still have 800 ships left. That's more than enough to crush one small planet." But even as he spoke, he felt doubt creeping into his mind. The humans had technology he didn't understand. Their shields had turned his plasma weapons back on him. Their gravity devices had caught his kinetic rounds and sent them back twice. As fast. What other surprises were they hiding? On Earth, the human commanders were gathering in the secret war room, buried deep under the Rocky Mountains. General Kevin Torres stood at the head of a long table, looking at the faces of his top officers. These people had trained their whole lives for this moment. "The aliens have stopped their attack," he said. "They're probably trying to figure out what went wrong. This gives us time to move to the next phase." Captain Ryan Bell was there, alone, with Lieutenant Colonel Sam Davis and Dr. Lisa Parker. They had all seen the battle through their sensors and cameras. The alien ships burning in space proved that humanity's hidden weapons worked. "How long do we have?" asked Major Alex Turner. He was a fighter pilot, one of the best in the Earth Defense Force. His job was to lead the first human attack against the alien fleet. "Not long," General Torres replied. "They'll attack again soon, probably with everything they have. But now it's our turn to surprise them." Dr. Carol Martinez stood up from her chair. She looked tired but excited. "The gravity. Manipulation systems are working perfectly. We can do more than just catch their weapons and throw them back. We can do things they've never seen before." "What kind of things?" asked Sam Davis. Carol smiled. "You'll see." Back in space, Admiral Vexthal was planning his next attack. He decided to use all his remaining ships at once. No more small waves. No more testing the human defenses. He would throw everything he had at Earth and overwhelm them with sheer numbers. "All ships move to attack formation," he ordered. "We're going to hit them with everything we have. Surely they can't stop 800 ships at once." His fleet began to move. The massive alien ships formed into a wall of metal and weapons that stretched across space. It was an impressive sight, dark and threatening, like a storm cloud full of lightning. But as they moved toward Earth, something unexpected happened. Small ships began appearing around them. These were human fighters, but they were unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. Major Alex Turner was flying the lead fighter. His ship was called the Phantom, and it lived up to its name. One moment, it was solid metal and glass. The next moment it seemed to fade away like smoke. The ship could phase through solid matter, becoming ghost-like when it needed to avoid enemy fire. "Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix Leader," Alex said into his radio. "Remember, hit them fast and hard, then phase out before they can target you. Let's show these aliens what human fighters can do." The Zephyrian gunners tried to shoot at the human fighters, but their weapons passed right through them. The human ships seemed to be made of light and shadow, there 1 second and gone the next. "What are those things?" Admiral Vexthal demanded. "How can ships become ghosts?" His weapons officer was frantically working at his control panel. "Admiral, our targeting systems can't lock onto them. They're phasing in and out of normal space. It's like they exist in 2 dimensions at once." Alex Turner's fighter phased back into solid form right next to a Zephyrian battle cruiser. His weapons fired, sending streams of blue energy into the alien ship's hull. The beams cut through the metal like a hot knife through butter. Then, before the aliens could return fire, his ship faded away again. All around the alien fleet, more human fighters were doing the same thing. They would appear, strike like lightning, then disappear before the aliens could react. It was like being attacked by ghosts, but the fighters were just the beginning. As the battle continued, larger human ships began to appear. These were cruisers and battleships that had been hiding in the shadows of asteroids and moons. They moved in ways that seemed impossible, bending space around them to travel faster than light. Captain Ryan Bell commanded the human fleet from his ship, the New Frontier. He watched as his ships surrounded the alien armada. The Zephyrians had expected to fight a defensive battle against a weak planet. Instead, they found themselves trapped in the middle of a human fleet that seemed to come from nowhere. "All ships, begin the encirclement," Ryan ordered. "Don't let any of them escape." The human ships used their gravity manipulation technology to create space distortions around the alien fleet. These distortions worked like invisible walls, trapping the Zephyrian. Ships in a box they couldn't see. Admiral Vexthal realized what was happening. "They're surrounding us. How did they get so many ships out here without us seeing them?" "Admiral," his communication officer said, "I'm detecting more human ships. A lot more. They're coming from all directions." The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. While the aliens thought Earth was a primitive world with a few small ships, humans had been building a massive fleet in secret. They had hidden their ships in asteroid fields, on the far side of moons, and in the empty spaces between planets. Now that fleet was revealing itself. Hundreds of human ships appeared as if from nowhere, each one using technology that the Zephyrians had never encountered. Some ships could bend light around them to become invisible. Others could phase through solid matter. Still others could manipulate gravity to move in ways that defied physics. "This is impossible," Admiral Vexthal whispered. "How can one planet have so many advanced ships? How can primitives possess technology that we don't understand?" He was about to learn the answer to that question. But first, he had to survive the battle. And that was looking less and less likely with each passing minute. The human fleet was not just bigger than expected. It was better. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology was designed to counter the tactics and weapons of the Zephyrian Empire. It was as if the humans had been studying their enemy for years, learning their weaknesses and preparing for this exact moment. The counterattack had begun, and the aliens were learning what it meant to be the hunted instead of the hunters. Admiral Vexthal could not believe what he was seeing. His mighty fleet, the same fleet that had conquered 17 worlds, was being torn apart by human ships that moved like ghosts. His officers were panicking, his weapons were useless, and his ships were exploding one by one. How is this possible? He screamed at his science officer. These humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to have simple weapons and weak ships. How do they have technology that we don't understand? The science officer was sweating as he checked his instruments. "Admiral, I'm picking up human communications. They're not encrypted. Maybe we can learn something from listening to them." "Do it," Vexthal ordered. "I need to know what we're fighting." On the human command ship New Frontier, Captain Ryan Bell was coordinating the attack. His ship was at the center of the battle, surrounded by the wreckage of alien vessels. The human fleet was winning, but Ryan knew the real fight was just beginning. "Sir," said his communication officer, Lieutenant Danny Brooks. "The aliens are trying to listen to our radio signals." "Should we block them?" Ryan thought for a moment. "No, let them listen. It's time they learned the truth about who they're fighting." He opened a channel to all human ships. "This is Captain Bell to all Earth Defense Forces. The aliens are listening to us now, so I'm going to tell them something they need to know. All ships, prepare for full disclosure." Admiral Vexthal listened carefully as the human voices filled his command center. What he heard made his blood run cold. "Commander Nick Rogers here," came a voice from one of the human ships. "My crew is asking questions about our technology. I think it's time we told them the real story." "Go ahead, Nick," Ryan's voice replied. "Tell them about the long journey." Nick Rogers was the captain of the USS Defiant, one of the larger human ships. He had been in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years, but he had only learned the truth about humanity 5 years ago. Now, with alien ears listening, he was going to share that truth. "Listen carefully," Nick said to his crew, knowing the aliens would hear every word. "What I'm about to tell you is classified information that only a few people on Earth know. But the situation has changed. The aliens are here, and they need to understand what they're really fighting." Admiral Vexthal leaned forward in his chair. His red eyes were wide with fear and curiosity. "What is he talking about? What secret?" Nick continued his story. "Earth is not humanity's first world. We didn't evolve here. We came here from somewhere else a long time ago." Very long ago, the alien command center fell silent. Even the battle seemed to pause as everyone listened to the humans' words. "Our real home was in the Andromeda Galaxy," Nick said. "We had an empire there that lasted for 50,000 years. We had technology that could reshape worlds, weapons that could destroy stars, and ships that could travel between galaxies in the blink of an eye." Admiral Vexthal's hands were shaking. 50,000 years? That's impossible. Our empire is only 3,000 years old, and we are the most advanced species in this galaxy. "But there was a war," Nick continued. "A terrible war that lasted for centuries. Other species joined together to fight us because they were afraid of our power. In the end, our empire fell. Most of our people died. The survivors had to run." Dr. Lisa Parker was listening from her underground laboratory on Earth. She had been one of the first people to learn this secret when she started working on the defense systems. Now she was watching her life's work in action, technology-based, on ancient human science that was far beyond anything the current galaxy had ever seen. "The survivors came to this galaxy in great ships," Nick said. "They were looking for a place to hide and rebuild. They found this empty solar system with a planet that could support life. They called it Earth." "How long ago?" asked another human voice. "About 12,000 years ago," Nick replied. "The survivors decided to start over. They buried their advanced technology and made themselves look primitive. They wanted to blend in, to look like a young species that had just learned to use tools." Admiral Vexthal was standing now, his whole body trembling. 12,000 years? They've been hiding here for 12,000 years? But they never forgot who they really were, Nick continued. They kept some of their technology hidden, deep underground and in secret places. They watched the galaxy, learned about the new species that had evolved, and waited. Waited for what? Came another voice. For someone to threaten Earth, Nick said. They knew that eventually some species would try to conquer them. When that happened, they would reveal their true nature. Captain Ryan Bell's voice came over the radio again. The Zephyrian Empire made a mistake. They thought they were attacking a primitive world. Instead, they attacked the hidden survivors of the most advanced civilization this part of the universe has ever known. The truth hit Admiral Vexthal like a physical blow. His empire, which he thought was so mighty, was fighting against the remnants of a species that had ruled an entire galaxy. The humans had technology that was thousands of years ahead of anything the Zephyrians possessed. That's why our weapons don't work against them, he whispered. That's why they can make their ships invisible and phase through solid matter. That's why they can manipulate gravity and turn our own weapons against us. His science officer nodded slowly. Admiral, if this is true, then we're not fighting a primitive species. We're fighting the survivors of an ancient empire that once ruled the stars. But why did they hide? Vexthel asked. If they were so powerful, why didn't they rebuild their empire? The answer came from another human voice, this one belonging to Commander Lara Green. Because we learned something from the Great War. We learned that being the most powerful species in the galaxy makes you a target. Everyone will eventually join together to fight you. So we decided to wait and watch. We became the guardians of this galaxy instead of its rulers. Guardians? Vexthel repeated. Yes, Laura said. We've been watching all of you. Every species, every empire, every war. We've been protecting the peaceful worlds and studying the aggressive ones. We know everything about the Zephyrian Empire. We know how you fight, what weapons you use, and what your weaknesses are. Admiral Vexthel realized the horrible truth. The humans had been watching his empire for centuries. They had studied every battle, every conquest, every tactical move. They had been preparing for this moment, building weapons and defenses specifically designed to counter Zephyrian technology. We are the mice, he said quietly, and they are the cats who have been watching us all along. The revelation changed everything. The Zephyrian Empire was not fighting a primitive world. They were fighting the hidden remnants of an ancient galactic power that had been preparing for this battle for thousands of years. And they were losing. Admiral Vexthel stood frozen on his command deck. The truth about humanity had hit him like a hammer blow. His mighty empire was fighting against the survivors of an ancient galactic civilization. Everything he thought he knew about this battle was wrong. Admiral, his communication officer said with a shaking voice, more human ships are appearing. Many more. Vexthel looked at his screens and felt his heart stop. Ships were materializing out of empty space all around his fleet. Not just a few ships, but hundreds of them. They appeared like ghosts becoming solid, emerging from places where his sensors showed nothing but darkness. These new ships were different from the ones he had been fighting. They were bigger, sleeker, and they glowed with a soft blue light that seemed to bend the stars around them. These were the ships of humanity's deep space fleet, the vessels that had remained hidden beyond the edge of the solar system. Captain Diana Walsh commanded the flagship of this hidden fleet. Her ship, the Starbreaker, was a mile long and packed with technology that made the earlier human ships look simple by comparison. She had been waiting for this moment for 15 years, ever since Earth's long-range sensors first detected the Zephyrian Empire expanding toward human space. This is Captain Walsh to all deep space units, she said into a communication device. The aliens now know who we really are. It's time to show them what we can really do. The new human ships moved in ways that hurt to watch. They seemed to fold space around themselves, appearing in one place and then instantly being somewhere else entirely. They didn't fly through space so much as they stepped across it, using technology that treated the laws of physics like gentle suggestions. Admiral Vexthel watched his tactical display fill with red warning symbols. The human fleet now outnumbered his forces 3-1. Worse, these new ships carried weapons that his sensors couldn't even identify. Energy readings were off the charts, and the space around the human vessels was bending in impossible ways. Admiral, his science officer whispered, we need to retreat. We need to run while we still can. Run where? Vexthel asked bitterly. "Look at the tactical display. They have us completely surrounded." It was true. The human ships had formed a perfect sphere around the Zephyrian fleet. There was no way out. Every direction led to human weapons, and human ships that could move faster than anything the Empire had ever built. On Earth, General Kevin Torres was coordinating the final phase of the battle from his underground command center. He had waited his entire military career for this moment. The secret was finally out, and humanity could stop pretending to be weak. "All units, this is General Torres," he said. "Begin Phase 5. Show them the quantum interdiction fields." "Captain." Diana Walsh smiled as she received the order. "You heard the General," she told her crew. "Activate the interdiction fields. Make sure none of them can escape to hyperspace." The space around the alien fleet suddenly changed. Reality itself seemed to thicken, like air becoming water. The Zephyrian ships found that their hyperspace engines wouldn't work. The fields that allowed faster-than-light travel had been cut off by human technology. Admiral Vexthel tried to give the order to retreat, but his engines couldn't access hyperspace. His ships were trapped in normal space, with no way to run. "They've cut off our escape routes," he said in a hollow voice. "We're completely trapped." The final assault began with a display of power that took the aliens' breath away. The human ships didn't just fire weapons. They reshaped reality around the alien vessels. Some Zephyrian ships found themselves caught in localized time fields that slowed them to a crawl. Others were trapped in gravity wells that crushed their hulls like tin cans. Commander Laura Green piloted one of the smaller human ships through the alien formation. Her vessel, the Ghost Rider, moved between enemy ships like it was dancing. She could see the alien crews through their windows, staring in terror as her ship passed through their hulls without touching them. "This is Commander Green to the Zephyrian flagship," she said, opening a communication channel. "Admiral Vexthel, can you hear me?" "I can hear you," Vexthel replied. His voice sounded defeated and tired. "Good. I want you to send a message back to your empire. Tell them what you've seen here today. Tell them that humanity remembers." "Remembers what?" Laura's voice became cold and hard. "We remember every world your empire conquered. We remember every species you enslaved. We remember every planet you burned. We've been watching you for centuries. Admiral, we know about all the terrible things you've done." Admiral Vexthel felt a chill run down his spine. "You've been watching us for centuries?" "Yes. We could have stopped you at any time. We could have revealed ourselves and prevented your conquests. But we wanted to see what kind of species you really were. We wanted to know if you would choose peace or war when you had power. And what did you decide? You chose war. You chose conquest. You chose to destroy and enslave instead of building and creating. So now you face the consequences. The battle was ending. Most of the Zephyrian fleet was already destroyed or disabled. The few remaining ships were surrounded by human vessels that could have destroyed them in seconds. But the humans were holding back, waiting for something. General Torres gave the final order. "Disable the remaining ships. Take prisoners for questioning. But let some of them go home." "Sir?" asked Captain Ryan Bell. "Let them go? Why?" "Because they need to tell their empire what happened here. They need to spread the word that humanity is no longer hiding." Captain Diana Walsh targeted the Zephyrian flagship with her ships. Capture beam. The alien vessel was pulled toward the Starbreaker by an invisible force that the aliens couldn't fight against. "Admiral Vexthel, you and your crew are now prisoners of the Earth Defense Force. But don't worry. You'll be treated well. The battle was over." In less than 4 hours, the mighty Zephyrian invasion fleet had been completely destroyed. Only a handful of ships remained, and they were being allowed to escape so they could carry word back to. The Empire. Admiral Vexthal sat in a human prison cell, staring at the walls. He had lost everything: his fleet, his reputation, and his faith in the Empire's power. But worst of all, he had learned that humanity was no longer content to hide in the shadows. The message that the surviving ships carried back to the Zephyrian Empire was simple. Earth was protected by the survivors of an ancient galactic civilization. Any future attacks would be met with total destruction. The Empire could choose peace, or it could face the full might of humanity's true power. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire faced a choice between surrender and extinction. And for the first time in 12,000 years, humanity stepped out of the shadows to take their place as guardians of the galaxy. The age of hiding was over. The age of protection had begun.